What's up, guys? Kind of bored at home. Just had an idea to make another video. I kind of got that idea when I made my Vinnie Paul tribute. When I reviewed all his albums, I decided to do a video about one of my favorite bands, Metallica. Just reviewing all their albums. I'm missing S&M and I think that's it. I used to have it. I don't know what happened to it, but I think I have everything else. I don't have all their home movies. I have A Year in the Life of, and I have Some Kind of Monster, and I have Cunning Stunts, and I have the Big Four. But I might review them in another movie. Sorry about the light coming in. It's kind of crazy. It's after 8 in the summertime. Tomorrow's 4th of July. It's just a little Master of Puppets on my laptop. Well, let's just get right into it. I'm trying to think how I got into them. Of course, I had an older cousin that liked classic rock and some metal bands, and she had the Black Album and Justice for All, and I kind of put on the Black Album, and now just getting into metal is kind of tame, but I still love that album, and I listened to first song of course on the Black Album, "In the Sandman," just kind of just blew my mind. I still. And that album kind of gets shit by fans and stuff. I can kind of see now get into like Metallica's like heavier stuff, but I kind of love that album. I kind of admire it. I have it on vinyl now, but another album kind of gets shit on. I kind of get tired of the album now because I think it's oversaturated on the radio. It's kind of overplayed, but whatever. But I got into that, and I think I was at a go-kart place with my cousin. And I had a little extra money, and I was like a teenager at the time, and there was a Walmart right next to it. I think I walked over and bought a Master of Puppets because I watched the Paradise Lost documentary about the Memphis 3, and they would play stuff from Orion, and they would play Welcome Sanitarium. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I got to check that album out, and I got Master of Puppets, and at first, I thought it was like one of the heaviest things I ever heard. I didn't like it because I thought it was like too heavy. But it is what it is. I still, love that album. I come to love it now. It's just such an epic, awesome album. Let's turn it in the background. But let's get started. First, of course, their first album came out in 1983. They just kicked out Dave Mustaine, of Megadeth, and he went on to, of course, be in Megadeth, and they got Kirk Hammett from the band Exodus to play. Of course, he's been in the band ever since, and they came out with this brutal album, influenced by Nawabo, New English, new wave of British heavy metal, and that is Kill 'Em All. Still a classic album. It's got this raw sound. I still love it. Still sounds amazing. I definitely put it on here and every once in a while listen to it. At the time, this is like very influential. This is probably like the heaviest thing people have ever seen. I mean, probably the heaviest bands at the time are Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. And this band comes along and this kind of reinvents everything. The band was really, really young. You kind of see them in here. They're like probably teenagers, I think. Look how young everybody looks. But they're doing some very influential stuff. I mean, playing really fast. Got the Motorhead punk influence. But, of course, you got still got the Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden influence in there. Doing some interesting things like the kind of bass solo Cliff Burton does, which is really unique. And he's got who's ever heard of that? The fifth song, Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth. And it's kind of never heard of. You usually have a guitar solo or a drum solo, and never a bass solo. I mean, the album that comes out, Hit the Gates, is so fast. Metal Militia is the last song. I mean, my favorite, they still play, Seek and Destroy every you see them. I still love the Four Horsemen, Jump in the Fire. Fate No More is a really cool, underrated classic. Of course, No Remorse. I mean, every song's kind of classic. It's got 10 songs on here. Very, very cool. This kind of, out of the gates, this kind of being very, very influential, in other bands to come. Of course, later you had the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax. Very cool. I mean, it's probably pale in comparison to some of like the bands, probably some of the the death metal bands or the black metal bands or even like a band like Slipknot. It'd probably be kind of pale in comparison, but still very influential. I think it still sounds heavy today. It's you kind of hear James' voice kind of cracking when he was singing. He's very very young, but very very cool. Next album came out, I think maybe a year later, in '84. Kill 'Em All was '83, I think, and I think it was recorded in King Diamond's recording studio in Copenhagen, Sweden, where Lars Ulrich is from, and that album is Ride the Lightning. And still, I think they kind of upped the intensity in this album. I think the songs are kind of, I think their musicianship's kind of gotten better. And I think the songs are heavier, but then it had like, they kind of experimenting with like ballads that like Fade to Black. But I mean, I'll take that ballad any day over a Cinderella ballad. But very, very cool. I mean, you got a lot of classics they still play, like Creeping Death and Ride the Lightning, From Whom the Bell Tolls, of course. Cliff Burton does this like amazing kind of bass kind of thing in the front part of From Whom the Bell Tolls, which is kind of influential. When this was released, they were kind of called sellouts because they had Fade to Black on here, which is just kind of ridiculous, by the day standard. But they're still keeping the edge, the intensity. I mean, I think this album is heavier than Kill 'Em All. I mean, they keep going heavier and heavier and heavier with each album, until the Black Album, I think. Of course, you got Escape. They didn't play that for years until a couple years ago. They played it at the Orion Festival. But such a classic. I mean, a little trend of they started doing with this album. They continued on Master of Puppets with the first song, Fight Fire with Fire. They did a little guitar, like acoustic, classical guitar interlude, which was kind of. I heard it was inspired by Cliff Burton. His love for classical music, classical composers like Beethoven and Bach and stuff like that. Very cool. He kind of added a influence to them they didn't have, before, he came along. He's just an unsung genius. Very cool, just, I wonder what Metallica would sound today, without him, but, with him. Very cool album, still influential. I saw it at Walmart, sent a sticker that said, the #1 thrash album of all time. I know some people don't consider Master of Puppets, their next album, a thrash album. I still do. Some people call it a power metal album, but everybody agrees this is definitely a thrash album. Very very cool, very very influential. Definitely a classic. Like I said, I keep this in my CD case, all the time. I never gets old. I actually got the shirt on. It's actually got the back. See if I can see it. On the electric chair. It actually glows in the dark. You can believe that. But very cool if you're a metalhead and you want to check out some Metallica. Definitely start with this or Master of Puppets or Kill 'Em All. But next album on the list came out in 1986. They just kind of upped everything. Just kind of, I'm listening to it in the background. This album's so epic. Probably one of the best metal albums of all time. If somebody says, hey, hand me an album that just says, hey, this is metal, I'd probably hand them this or a Black Sabbath album or a Pantera album. But I'm talking about Master of Puppets. Such a classic album. I mean, I think like I said, I think the musicianship this got even better. It kind of continued from Ride the Lightning to this, and the songs are kind of longer and kind of more epic. They do a lot of different things in here. Another thing they continued is like the every album up to this, and then in Justice for All they have like a instrumental, which has this amazing instrumental in here, song 7, Orion, and of course they have of course Master of Puppets. The album begins with Battery, where they continue what they did with Fight Fire with Fire. They got the classical kind of acoustic guitar interlude. The thing it should not be super heavy, kind of like almost like a groove metal song before groove metal was even around. Of course, got kind of, they continue with the kind of song 4 is kind of like a slower pace. I kind of don't want to say a ballad, but the amazing Welcome Home Sanitarium, one of my favorite Metallica songs. Then you got the Disposable Heroes. That's such a heavy song, kind of like a political song against military and stuff. Not not military, but just kind of politicians sending people to die and stuff. Of course, got Leaper Messiah about televangelists, and then Orion and Damage Incorporated just ends kind of like it's probably one of the heaviest songs on the album. Such a cool. It was produced by Flamin Ramstein. I hope I'm saying his name right. I guess he's kind of a Swedish producer, but it's mixed by Michael Ragnar. He went to like produce albums like Skid Row and Warrant and all these kind of hair metal bands, but kind of gave this album kind of like a better kind of production quality. I think they were touring with Ozzy on this album. I think Ozzy was touring the Ultimate Sin album. But such an amazing album. This is probably my favorite Metallica album ever. Sadly on tour, if you don't know, they're on tour in Ozzy. Cliff Burton was killed in a tour bus crash. And such a shame. He was so talented. I would love to know what Metallica kind of would sound like. They might, people say they would still be like super heavy if Cliff Burton stayed in the band, but who knows, because Burton kind of gave them a lot more influences they didn't have before he showed up. And I heard they were kind of wanting to get rid of Lars on this tour. I heard he couldn't really keep up with their musicianship. They were kind of growing as musicians, and they kind of heard a rumor now, it came out now, that that they kind of wanted another drummer when they got back, and of course Cliff passed away and they kind of just scrapped it. But very amazing album. I can't say enough good things about it, or things that haven't already been said about it. But this is an epic metal album. This past year, for Christmas, I got the deluxe edition they came out with, the Master of Puppets. Very cool. It's like a digipack. It's very cool. It's got like 3 CDs. They remastered it, and it sounds amazing. It sounds like the first time I heard it, very, very cool. Like I said, it's got like kind of demos of songs. It's got a live song. It's kind of weird. I think the live album they have on here is when James like broke his hand skateboarding, and there's another guy playing guitar, rhythm guitar, which I thought was kind of weird. Like all the live albums, you put that one. I would like to have the one that James. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but very cool. I'm glad I got this. I remember they're doing an Injustice for All one. Maybe they'll remix it and put the bass back in it, But that's another story for the next album. Of course, sadly Cliff Burton passed away. And I guess Metallica didn't want to call it quits. They were looking for another bass player. And Flotsam and Jopsam bass player Jason Newsted joined. And then they recorded the kind of the prongy kind of kind of more progressive sounding, but still heavy, and still keeping with the heaviness and the edge. And I'm talking about their album, Justice for All. This is probably, I got the Black Album. I think I got Load and Reload, and then I got this album. And I never bought it at the ECE store, but I just thought the first song comes on is Blacking, and I thought it was like the heaviest thing I've ever heard at the time. It was so heavy, and the drums kick in, and people give a lot of shit because it came out that Lars he kind of turned the bass, like Jason Newsted's bass, like way down, so you can almost not even hear it. And it's never really bothered me like other people. That'd be cool when they come out with a reissue this year. They kind of remix the album and put Jason Newsted's bass, because one of the producers, I don't know if it's Steve Thompson or Michael Barrio. I don't know if they said it was like Jason Newsted's bass playing was like amazing. It was like a tragedy that it wasn't on there. I think it might have been Toby Wright that said that. I can't remember. But of course Steve Thompson, I think Lars wanted him because he produced or mixed. I can't remember the Appetite for Destruction album, Guns N' Roses, and I think Lars was a big fan. Again, you got the classic. They still play live. I saw them last year with the Vince Unfold and Volbeat, and the classic one. They still play it on the radio every once in a while. I mean, it's got that It kind of starts off slow pace, and it's got that amazing heavy kind of ending that's just like so heavy, still heavy to this day. Of course, they made their first video ever for that song. Of course, when they made the video, they could, of course, again, like they did in Ride the Lightning, considered it a sellout, which would follow them all their career. I'm sure they just stopped really giving a shit, what they call you, what people end up calling them. But they got a lot of classics, I Love to Live Is to Die. It's another instrumental that they kind of continued. I think they didn't do that for the next album, Black Album. I Love Dyer's Eve. I think that song's really cool. The songs, they kind of seem like they're more progressive kind of sounding, like longer songs. They kind of have influenced, I think, by the times. I think Queensryche was opening up for them on this tour, and I have the box set, the live shit Purge. I was gonna talk about that too, and it's got 2 DVDs. One of them on the Injustice tour, and it's really, really cool. It's got Lady Liberty kind of growing and falling down while they're playing, like amazing DVD, amazing live concert. I had a buddy on Facebook. He was actually in a band called Galactic Cowboys, which is another cool band that make a video talking about their albums. He saw him in the story. He said Queensryche opened up for him. Was kind of keeping up with him. If you can believe Queensryche was kind of keeping up with him. But it's got Short of Straw, which is a cool. Harvest of Sorrow, The Freight Ends of Sanity. I mean, every song's a classic. Of course, the amazing. I love this song. Clocking in at 9 minutes and 44 seconds. Injustice for All. I love that song. This song's so awesome. I've been trying to learn it on the guitar. I kind of got the riff down. I just love playing that song on the guitar. It just sounds cool. It's such a cool riff. Kirk Hammond and James coming up with like amazing stuff as always. Still, I can, people say, after Master, they kind of saw, this is the album where they started to kind of go downhill. I kind of disagree. I think this is up there with the classics, I think this is an amazing album. I can imagine what it would have sounded like with Cliff Burton on it. I wonder, what would have changed about it. But, Jason Newsted's awesome, when I first got into Metallica, he was in the band, and I'd love to hear his bass one day. Maybe they'll when they come out with a deluxe edition like they did Master, they'll have they will remix the album with the bass. That'd be like amazing. So they kind of released this after Injustice. It's kind of they kind of went out of print, and they kind of re-released it this year. Metallica did on their Blackened album. And on my video where I showed my stuff I've gotten, movies and CDs, this is one of them. And I'm talking about the Garage Days, the Garage Days Revisited EP. Very cool to have this, especially on CD. I love to get it on vinyl. I had a vinyl too. But they kind of released this in between the Injustice for All and the Black Album. It might have been in between Master and Injustice for All, but I think it was after the Justice album. I might be wrong. It's this album full of covers. Got Helpless, The Small Hours, The Wait, Crash Course in Brain Surgery, Last Caress, and Green Hell. I think that's the Misfits. But sometimes they still play that. Look how young they were there. So pretty crazy. But very cool. I just like to just listen to this for fun. It's kind of a real short album, but I'm so glad. Just being a Metallica fan, I'm glad I've got this. Of course, they're releasing all this cool stuff, and Metallica came out with their own record label called The Blackening. They're kind of releasing this cool stuff like this, releasing their the past catalog and stuff. They're very cool. The next album, it's like their opus kind of album. I think it's like their best-selling album ever. I think such a monster album. People say this is they sold out on this album, or after this album, they started sucking. I love this album. Even a metalhead, you gotta admire the songwriting on this album. I think it's sold so many copies. This might be my third or second copy of this, just because I wore it out. I love every song on this album. I think they didn't sell on this album. I think they were just trying to, do different things. They did 4 albums of fast thrash, which has still got some stuff on here. I think a lot of bands I've kind of copied this album, like bands like Vince Sevenfold. They have songs that kind of sound like this, especially on Hell of the King album. I feel like bands like Trivium have kind of followed in suit after this album. I feel like even Anthrax. I love Anthrax. Don't get me wrong, but the Sound of White Noise album kind of took took in suit, to go this route. And talking about the Black album, can't even see it, it's so black. Always reminds me of the Spinal Tap movie where they came out with the Black album. It's none more black, but very cool. I mean, it's an amazing album. People say this album's shit, which is crazy. I just don't have an open mind. I like death metal. I like some black metal bands, and I still like this album. It's just, have a variety. And, it's got some really heavy thrash songs, like According to Now. I love Don't Tread on Me, Through the Never. The Struggle Within's really heavy. Of course, it's got the mega opus hit, End in the Same Man. I mean, that riff is so amazing. I think Kirk Hammett's just a genius with that riff. And then Lars being a genius to kind of like, hey, I saw on the Year and a Half of when they're making the Black album, the first half of the documentary they're making, and the second half they're going on tour. And Lars was listening back to Kirk Hammett's he had this little tape recorder where he would playing riffs that came in his head, and Lars found it. He's like, hey, what is that? I mean, this is kind of have an ear for like, hey, this is probably going to be huge, and he was right. I always loved the riff to Sad But True, and a lot of bands that kind of ripped that off. Like, I hate the Kid Rock, American Badass. A lot of people think that's his riff. No, that's Metallica, Sad But True. I hate Kid Rock, by the way. But, and then the amazing Unforgiven. Like I said, we got like, wherever I may roam, they probably played it on the radio. I used to really like that song. It's kind of, I think it's played out, and Nothing Else Matters. I think I've heard it too much. But I think the only thing this album suffers from is overexposure. I think this album's just really, really played out. Sometimes I just get tired of hearing it on the radio, but I still love it. I still have to listen to it every once in a while. This is my first exposure into Metallica, but I don't know why people shit on this album. Even Kerry King said there's some heavy stuff on here from Slayer. If Kerry King says it's heavy, then it's heavy. But a very, very cool album. I got this next album. It's been around since 1995, and it's kind of a box set of like live CDs to live DVDs. It's even got like a Snake Past Pit, which if you're a Metallica fan, they have what they call. It started in the 90s on the Black Album tour. I think Whenever I May Roam tour. I think that's what the Black Album tour was called. They'd have a little hole in the middle of the stage. The stage would go around this hole, and fans, they had a snake pit pass. They can go in the middle of the stage, and the band kind of plays all around them, which is really, really cool. But when they first released this, it was like this huge box set that kind of looked like, the stage, where the instruments go in, the kind of stage boxes and stuff. And it was VHS tapes and stuff, and it was a lot bigger. And they kind of come out with this compact one that had CDs in it. I've been wanting it for probably, 20 years. I finally got it this year for my birthday, and that's the live Bench and Purge live shit. Very cool. I love this thing. I've been wanting this thing for a while. I sat and watched the DVDs one night, and it's got the tinsel, like a Metallica tinsel. It's got the it's got the snake piss patch in it, which is really cool. Isn't that cool? And it's got a little booklet telling about it, and it's got a little Metallica Man stencil, which I thought was really cool. Very, very cool. Like I said, I've been wanting this thing for years, and I finally got it. My wife was shopping, and it is the FYE, like the last CD store I know about. It's FYE in the mall close to us. I went in there and they had this for $30, and I don't know if that's expensive or not, but I got it. But I didn't watch much of the Blackening tour, because after I watched the Year and a Half of Life of, it's got a lot of that on there. But the Injustice tour is like awesome. Like that's so cool. I think the stage show is cool. It's got Lady Liberty, like I said, falling down and stuff. But I haven't listened to all the CD recordings yet, but they sound like really good, like really good quality, and they sound like they're on top of their game then, and they played a lot of heavy stuff, which I love. Well, it was a long time before Metallica released another album. I think it was it 5-6 years? I think 1996. And Metallica came out with the Load album, which they had a new image, a new sound, and they cut their hair. And this is one of the first albums I ever got by Metallica. And I know people give this like album a lot of shit, but I actually really like this album. I like the songs on it. I guess I didn't kind of like grow old with this band. I kind of this is like my first taste in Metallica. This is the Black Album, so this is what I first got a taste of. So I didn't mind it like other people, but I ended up liking their heavier stuff better. The older I got, like I went and got Master and Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All, and I could see why fans shit on this album, but Metallica's got one of my favorite songs on here, Hero of the Day. I love that song. I listen to that song all day long. I think that song's so cool. I love Until It Sleeps. There's a lot I love the Outlaw Thorn. It's kind of a long album. It's kind of got more of a bluesier kind of the 90s kind of grunge sound, I would say. It's even got kind of a classic rock kind of sound. I think Metallica was just tired of doing thrash and they wanted to do something else, and that's totally cool. It's even got kind of a southern rock kind of thing going on, or I would say kind of old Sabbath album vibes. And Black Sabbath's one of my favorite bands, so I'm totally cool with that. Like I said, a lot of people give this album shit. I mean, try to write some songs like Hero of the Day, like or Bleeding Me or King Nothing. That song's like badass. Or Ain't My Bitch. Or Wasting My Hay or Thorn Within. It's a really, really cool song. I love the riff on Ronnie. Kind of got this southern rock kind of, almost sounds like a Leonard Skinner riff. Another thing, this album kind of reminds me of Corrosion and Conformity. I don't know if you remember that band. I really like that band. I think James Hetfield's were like really good friends with Pepper Keenan, which is in Corrosion and the band Down with Phil Samo. But like I said, this album has gotten so much shit on. I love this album. I think I've listened to it as much as I have the thrash ones, but I can kind of see where people are coming from. Kind of glad they didn't stay on this route, but they kind of recorded this album and Load around the same time. They had a lot of the songs kind of ready. Ready before they came out with Load. They were going to release Load and Reload as a double album, and they kind of. I think they wanted to, some of the songs were ready and they just wanted to stay on the road a little longer. So a year later, they released this in November. Load came out in 1996. This came out in November 1997. And like I said, this is just as good as Load. I mean, like people say, I like Reload better. Pretty much they're the same album. Of course, Bob Rock's back to produce both of them like he did the Black Album. People really criticize Bob Rock, production, which I think these albums sound badass. I mean, the production sounds amazing. I love another song one of my favorite Metallica songs is on Reload is Unforgiven 2. I love it better than an original. I love Kirk Hammett's solo. It's so cool. And I read like in a Guitar World, that's one of his favorite solos he's ever done, which I was like, wow, I was kind of shocked, But I love Fuel, and I love Remember Remains the Same, which kind of, if you listen to that riff is totally Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath. But I just hate the fucking Haggard lady chanting. I think that's kind of like kills the song. I think it's better live when the audience is kind of chanting it. And I love the song Bad Seed. I think that song's kind of got like a groove metal kind of sound. I think it's kind of influenced by like Pantera and Machine Head and some of the groove metal bands at the time. It's not as heavy as those bands, but Better Than You kind of reminds me of King Nothing, and then it's just a cool song. It's a cool album. I mean, I think it's just as good as Load. I think I like Load a little bit better, but I kind of wonder what they would have done if they released these two albums together as a double album, what they intended to do. But this album is awesome. Very cool. I love James Hetfield's guitar. He's got the flying V, and it's kind of got like a flame. Very, very cool. I got the tour movie on this, Cunning Stunts, which they actually, when they first come out, they go into Bad Seed. They haven't released it yet, but they can actually play Fuel live before it's even released. But like I said, this album gets shit on too, but I really like this album. It's better than Saint Anger. Probably a year later, after Reload, they they went back and kind of did another Garage Inc. album. They kind of did an album of there's two CDs on here. First album is covers of like bands that they influenced them and stuff, and then the second album has got the Garage Revisited and other stuff, some other things. I was talking about Garage Inc. They still play some of this stuff, and they have some really cool covers. They still play some of these songs on the radio. Like I love, they did a version of Bob Seger's "Turn the Page," which I love. Like people either love it or hate it, but I love it. Of course, they do like kind of a Metallica medley with Sabo Cadabra, and they do like a mixture of like a lot of Black Sabbath songs. It sounds so cool, and I love. They just call it "Merciful Fate," but it's like a melody of Merciful Fate songs from the Melissa album, and which I think is like awesome. That's my first taste in Merciful Fate, which kind of got me into them. They do a Buddhist Cult song. Of course, they do "Tuesday's Gone," Belinda Skinner. Of course, the "Whiskey in the Jar," a Thin Lizzy cover, which I think they're supposed to be big fans of Thin Lizzy. Of course, they're big fans of Diamond Head. They do X Electric, which is really cool. One of my favorite songs on here, I can't remember the name of the band that they cover, but it's the last song on the first disc. It's called "The More I See." I mean, it's kind of the riff is really heavy, but it's got kind of the Black Album production, but it's still like super, super heavy. Of course, on the second album, it's kind of the older stuff that they recorded, and they put it on one album. You got "Helpless," "The Small Hours," "The Wait," "Crash Course in Brain Surgery," "Last Caress," which is pretty much the Garage Days Revisited. Then you have the Diamond Head song, awesome song called I Am Evil, Blitzkrieg, I can't remember the band, Brett Fan, I think that's a band called Bungie. There's a sticker in the way. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do that. Let's see, The Prince, I think that might be another Diamond Head song. So Cold Crazy, which is Queen, awesome Queen song. So What, I don't know if that's a Misfits song? I don't think so. Killing Time. Plus, then the last couple songs are all Motorhead covers, which is like awesome. You got Overkill, Damaged Case, Some Dead Forever, and Too Late, Too Late. Very cool. I think a lot of people just to say, I think a lot of metalheads kind of jumped ship after this, and a lot of bands, I had my same buddy that went and saw that was in that band Glad the Cowboys were talking about. I went and saw Metallica and Queensryche. He went and saw Pantera around this time. He said that Phil and Samo would just sit there and just rag on Metallica during this time. I think Pantera was touring on Great Southern Trendkill, which that album was like awesome. And then I could kind of see that's like Pantera was like way heavier than Metallica at the time. But I love this album. I love their covers. I love when really talented bands do covers and they kind of put their own stamp. And I think Metallica was just having fun with this album, and it shows. People like they don't even like metal. They love Turn the Page. They love Metallica's version, and Whiskey in a Jar, and Tuesday's Gone's pretty cool. I think Tuesday's Gone's got like Pepper from Corrosion playing on it. James singing, of course, playing guitar. It's got Les Claypool from Promise. And I think John Popper from Blues Traveler. And very, very cool. Very cool. Of course, Metallica made their S&M album where they were playing with the symphony, San Francisco Symphony. It's called S&M. I used to have that album. I don't have it anymore. I need to go get it, just to complete my Metallica collection. I don't know what happened to it, but I do listen to it on Spotify. I do really like that album. It's really growing on me. I like to listen to it around the holidays with all the orchestra moments. It kind of reminds me of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. But Metallica didn't make another album for a long time after Reload. I guess they didn't really have to. They're Metallica. And a lot of things happened in between that album and the next album that came out in 2003. And, Jason Newsted quit the band. James Hetfield went to rehab. The band was almost about to break up, and they kind of documented it in the documentary film called Some Kind of Monster, which was made by the same director that made the A Paradise Lost about the Memphis 3. Well, they finally came out with this album. They made it, and I think it went up to #1 on the Billboard charts. But produced again by Bob Rock. I think Bob Rock played bass, and of course, during the making of it, they found Robert Trujillo from Suicidal Tendencies and Ozzy's band. the fill in the bass, and I think he just kind of rejuvenated the band. He didn't play on this next album, but he did play on the next two. But I'm talking about Saint Anger album. This is probably considered the worst Metallica album. I would kind of agree. I don't hate it, but it's kind of hard to listen to. It's really, really different. It's kind of influenced by the times. It doesn't really sound like Metallica. I mean, the song, usually Metallica plays in either standard or E flat. They don't do a lot of drop D, and I think some of these songs are kind of tuned down the way to C, C sharp, maybe even like B. And it's kind of influenced by bands like Meshuggah and, Slipknot and System of a Down and Pantera, stuff like that. Kind of like the new metal stuff. I feel like this is kind of influenced. And there's no solos anywhere on this album, which I hate. I wonder what it would have sounded like with solos. But it's kind of got it kind of reminds me of the Justice for All kind of artwork. I think it was done by the artist called Pusshead. And it's got some crazy, crazy artwork. But I kind of appreciate this album. It's just a kind of like a snapshot into Metallica's kind of what they were doing in this time frame. And like I said, it's kind of hard to listen to. The songs kind of sound like they're like unfinished. It almost sounds like a demo more than an album. And of course, Lars' snare drum just gets shit on, and just the way James is singing, it's kind of you can tell it's kind of influenced by the bands like System Down, Slipknot, and Meshuggah. But this album kind of goes on. I mean, there's some really cool riffs. Like I love the frantic riff. I love the Some Kind of Monster riff. Saint Anger is kind of a cool song. But I could kind of see why fans kind of shit on this album. It's definitely out of every single Metallica album, I think it's my least favorite. And I do think this is where the band started turning the boat around. I think they kind of brought the edge back to the band that was really needed. It's kind of the rawness of kind of the early albums. It sounds like, I think Bob Rock put it best. They wanted to make an album with a band playing in the garage, and the garage band happens to be Metallica, which I think is like a really cool way to put it. But sometimes I bust this out and listen to it. This was something different. I watch the Some Kind of Monster documentary every once in a while. I think it's just really interesting, just to see inside the life of Metallica, this kind of, it's really interesting. But like I said, I totally agree with the worst album, but it's still Metallica. It's still one of my favorite bands. Like again, after Singer, they toured. I actually saw them on the Saint Anger. I think it's Madly touring. They had Godsmack open up for them. That's actually the first time I saw them. I saw them in 2004, and it was awesome seeing one of my favorite bands. Seeing for the first time, and I remember they came out and played. The first time they played was Blackening, and it was so loud that the crowd was so loud cheering that you couldn't even hear Blackening. But they played for like 3 hours. They played 3 or 4 encores. It was awesome. But like again, they didn't really put out an album for a while. They were just kind of touring, and of course, Robert Trill, awesome bass player. I love Suicidal Tendencies. And finally, they kept teasing they were writing new music, gonna make an album. And finally, in 2008, they released Death Magnetic. They got producer Rick Rubin to produce it, which I think was like a very welcome change. I think they needed. I love Bob Rock's production. I think he's done some great things for the band. I think he did make the band better, but I think after Saint Anger, they kind of needed, a rejuvenation. And this is kind of a mixture of kind of new and old. Like it sounds like the heydays of the 80s thrash of Metallica. I mean, I think this album gets shit too, and I just don't get it. Like I think this album is like one of my favorite Metallica albums ever. Behind Black Album, Master Puppets. I mean, it's got some great songs. And I love the artwork of the kind of grave. This kind of, it's kind of wild, isn't it? But I need to listen to this album. Got it in my CD case. I think I love this album. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's got some amazing songs. it totally reminds me of like a mixture of Master Puppets, Justice Raw. It's even got some stuff that kind of reminds me of Load in the Black album. But the first single I released from it is The Day That Never Comes. It's kind of going back to the song four is kind of like the ballad or the slower paced song. Kind of starts off kind of mellow, then it goes into this like really thrashy kind of ending. You know, real epic sounding. They kind of go back to the standard tuning that they did on the earlier albums, and I think it's kind of a welcome return. The album starts off with That Was Just Your Life. The song is really really heavy. It kind of it's kind of like it goes back to like, you know, opening Metallica albums, like something that's really heavy that you know, like Master of Puppets, Battery, and then or Ride the Lightning, Fight Fire with Fire, or Blackening, or Kill 'Em All, Hit the Lights. Kind of went back to that like hit you hard opening. Then the end of the line, which I really like, I think the riffs kind of got this Master of Puppets kind of thing going on. You know, Broken Beat and Scarred's awesome. I love the song All Nightmare Long. Really, really cool. The video is really cool. The video kind of reminds me of like a Tool video because all the claymation and Cyanide is really, really cool. I think Unforgiven 3 is just okay. It kind of, they could have called that song something else, I believe, but it's all right. It's probably my least favorite song on the whole album. Juice Kiss is pretty cool. Suicide and Redemption is like another instrumental. They're kind of going, like I said, going back to like the kind of 80s heydays of adding instrumentals into their stuff. And then the last song is My Apocalypse, which is super, super heavy. Kind of reminds me of something that would be on Justice Raw. Solid album. I just think they were getting back to what they do, and I think it's just so awesome. And I think they're kind of, even Lars and Kirk and James said this, they kind of got kicked in the ass by the bands at the time, like bands like Lamb of God and Meshuggah, and this, you know, just kind of in Trivium, they kind of rejuvenated them. Avenged Sevenfold, they got kind of rejuvenated them. They, you know, get back to like, you know, doing what they do best, you know, kicking ass. Again, for a while, I think almost 10 years, they didn't release another album. And before they did, they put out a movie. Well, they put out the Big Four with Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer, where they all toured together for a while, which I had that. That's really cool. And they put out the movie in 2013, I think, Through the Never. It's kind of like a movie / concert, and I got the soundtrack here. I got it on vinyl too. Very cool. I'll love to get the movie one day. But I saw it on Netflix, and then I was gonna finish it, and they took it off. So I'm gonna have to buy it one day and finish it. But I did like it. It's kind of reminded me of like the song Remains the Same, mixed with Pink Floyd's The Wall, but with Metallica in it. But they after they came out with Death Magnetic, they had 14 songs to the album, and they put out an EP in 2011 or Christmas time. At the 4 songs that they didn't have, I don't have that album. I like to get it. It's a cheap EP, but and those songs are really cool. I see why they didn't put it on there. I think the songs aren't as good as stuff that's on Death Magnetic, but I do like the songs. I like to get the EP one day. But you know, fast forward to 2016, Metallica finally put out this album, their last album. I think it's almost just as good as Death Magnetic. It's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Like I said, you know, kind of going back to their kind of, I don't want to say thrash, but it's kind of like Metallica in a modern world. You know, it's their thrash heydays in a modern production. I'm so glad they went back to this kind of style. I think this is what fans are wanting, and kind of like falling in suit of Death Magnetic. The album just starts out with Hardwired, which sounds like it could be on Kill 'Em All. It's a heavy, fast song. Really, really cool. Every song is kind of cool in this album. I think every song is kind of a classic. You got then the next song, Atlas Rise, which is kind of reminds me of like Iron Maiden, kind of going back to you know, kind of heydays of like new wave of British heavy metal, which is really cool. Now That We're Dead, it's kind of got like a kind of got like this, reminds me of like, you know, something that would be on the Black album maybe. It's got kind of comes in with like a drums and stuff. Moth and the Flames kind of got this real Nawabo kind of guitar kind of lead. It's really, really cool. That's one of my favorite songs on here. That and Hardwire. You got Dream No More, which is kind of reminds me of Sabbath True in a way. very very Halo Fire, which is an awesome song. That song kind of reminds me of like a cross between Volbeat and like maybe Machine Head, Blackening. That's another band that Metallica said that they listened to and they wanted to get back to that. It's Machine Head's The Blackening album. Then you got it's actually 2 discs. They said they got like it's only 12 songs. They got like, complaints with Death Magnetic. Said there was too much compression in the recording. I don't know what that means because I think Death Magnetic sounds awesome. I think this does. I didn't think it needed to be on 2 discs, but it's kind of cool. And they have the 3-disc edition where it has like covers. They did like a Dio cover and they did like Iron Maiden, and then their song "Lords of Summer," which they released before this was released. Then you got "Man Unkind," which is got a cool riff. "Here Comes Revenge," that's a cool song. "I Am Savage," which is cool. "Murder One," which is like a tribute to Lemmy from Motorhead because I think he died before this album was released. And then my favorite song on this album, this song, this kind of reminded me of this Metallica heyday, and that is "Spit Out the Bone." This song is so awesome. Like when I saw them last year at a brand new baseball stadium, and I was hoping they would play it, but they played everything but that. I mean, they come out with Hardwired, and they did not play "Spit Out the Bone." Now they're playing it live. It's totally reminds me of old stuff, old school Metallica, something that would be on Master of Puppets or something. It's so cool. It's almost got this Fear Factory kind of vibe to it too. Maybe, I don't know. But they're now playing it. They didn't play it then. I saw them on their Hardwire tour, which is really cool. Volbeat and Avenged Sevenfold opened for them, which is really it's one of my favorite concerts ever. But again, Death Magnetic and this, it still gets shit on. Some people like, I look on Facebook and I'll see like Metal Injection and what's another Loudwire and Metal Hammer. I've seen the comments. I'll say some Metallica, and then some of the people will comment like they suck or they've always been bad or they haven't had a good album since, which is crazy. This album's really solid. I don't know why anybody would say that, but I feel like this I kind of like Death Magnetic a little bit better. I think Death Magnetic's a little bit heavier. This has kind of got more of a groove kind of thing going on. I think some songs even kind of remind me of Load. Like it's kind of like it's like back in the day, if they were playing stuff off the Master of Puppets and they had the Load production. It's kind of what this reminds me of the Black Album. But I love this album. I hope they just keep releasing stuff like this. I don't think they could go wrong. Very cool stuff. I love the artwork. I think the artwork's like really cool. Kind of crazy. But I've been listening to this album nonstop. I'll maybe once a month I'll listen to this album. I loved it since day one. I heard Hardwire and I was like, oh wow. I was kind of always get worried. What is Metallica gonna do? But they never disappoint. But very slamming album. I can't wait to see what they're gonna do next. When I saw them live, they're playing some of the heavier stuff, and Lars is probably in his 50s. Maybe early 50s. He was having a hard time playing some of the heavier stuff, like Battery and I can't remember what else he's playing. Maybe Hit the Lights. Maybe I can't remember. But you could tell he kind of needed a breather. But I think Robert Trujillo has just added this kind of new life into the band, and there's this kind of back to mixing different things with their old school sound. That's just what the fans want, and that's what I want. I love to see what they do. With the next album, it'll probably be another 10 years before they release another album. I don't think they mean to do that, but it's just how it is. They're one of my favorite bands. I think they always put out quality stuff. I know you're not gonna like every album your favorite band puts out. It's just not gonna work that way. But I love where they're going. Every time they come to town, I'll go see them. I want to take my wife next time. She wanted to go really bad to the Metallica show, and I wish she could have. Next time we will. They're still going to remain one of my favorite bands. I think they're awesome. They're still carrying the torch, for metal, and they're like the biggest metal band in the world. I don't care what anybody says. They really are. They're very influential. They're like kind of my generation's Led Zeppelin. In a way, Led Zeppelin's always Led Zeppelin. That's not one of my favorite bands is Led Zeppelin. But I don't know, man. I think they do interesting choices. I don't think anybody sounds like them. Nobody would sound like them after. I was gonna do more videos like this. I kind of got the idea, like I said, doing the Vinnie Paul video. I was gonna do some about maybe Megadeth and Anthrax and just some of my favorite bands. And I might review like an album that's just kind of random that I've been listening to lately. Stuff like that. But cool. Have a good Fourth. Have a good weekend, and thanks for watching.